making that so focused on ritual, where if he ends up going on too much of a lose streak, will switch things up. So if it's a time where I was doing a lot of interviews with him, I would actually stop for a while so that, okay, the interviews aren't what are leading to the loss streak.
Right.
Let's not cut them out forever, right? Get you
Right.
back on your feet, and then we'll resume. So, you know, finding ways to respect the player. Do you have anything in particular, as somebody that's so heavy in competitive play yourself, anything that you lean on in terms of readying yourself for the tournament?
No. I broke rituals a long time ago. I don't think, you know, superstitions, right? Like they exist and they're cool. If if you're into them, that's fine. But for me, yeah, we just play. We just play games.
And
so
Colby and Tony are ready to just play.
Yeah, shout out to Colby here. He is a Florida native.
Oh.
Old friend of many different games at this point. I can't think of how many games I played with Colby. So. Colby's repping Ruby Amethyst. Now, his list is very, very interesting. He has a card that I don't think we have seen on stream today, and I'm sure we're going to get there. But he has the 4-cost Elsa, which is the vanilla 4/4. He's also repping this Wardrobe, which is a 3/4. He's very much representing stats and evasives, I believe. And it's a very different, look on this list. And he's been I've been talking to him throughout the day. And he told me the Elsa has been really good, been really powerful. One of the big plays that you'll see is like an Elsa on 4, a Maui on 5, and then when you get to shift Spirit of Winter onto Big Elsa, because she has 4 health and she only has 1 lore, she's really not threatening, and players have just been leaving her in play. And when you let her hang around and you kind of forget that Spirit of Winter actually has a shift 6 on it, you get punished.
Yeah, especially when, as you're noting, it's not like we see that particular Elsa very often.
Right.
It's even more common for players to just let them be, not worry about them, even though mentally they have the connection of shifting, but it's more associated with the even smaller Elsa, I feel like.
I would be shocked if any other deck in the room has that card registered. Similar, I compare it very much to the Krunk, where the Krunk was like the 6/6 big static character. This is very much the same thing. There's not another character in the game that's just a straight 4/4. Everything else has like a either it's a 4/3 or synergy. It has it requires cards in hands, like things like that, or challenger. That card's just a 4/4, and it doesn't seem like a lot, but it's really hard for steel decks to get rid of characters with 4 health. It's really interesting in the mirror match because they don't really have any efficient ways to do it on curve either. So we didn't get to see it in this particular game yet. But yeah, it's a very interesting, different take on that list. And you're looking at the full list there. Was there Mickeys and Brooms or anything like that?
So I'm turning sideways because Colby, you sent your. I mean, I've seen a few people do this because when you take the picture on the phone. So I'm cranking my neck here a little bit, but I do not see any Brooms, nor do I see Mickeys.
Big evasive package.
Yep, I see the Goofies coming in for that evasive
Goofies,
hit.
Jetsam. Yeah.
Yep.
Big evasive package. And I love the Wardrobe here, right? We're just a 3/4 beat stick. We're all about it. I'm cool with it.
Just much more in general, it seems like Colby is indexing into these, beef steak, bigger bodies.
Just stats and evasive. And you know what? I'm behind it.
Yeah.
So this is a really power play here, right? This Forgotten. You were Forgotten Me. He gets rid of 2 cards. Colby only has 1 card left in hand. He doesn't have a mirror down yet. That's a really strong play there. And obviously this Wardrobe is not threatening anything. It's the last card we kept is evasive, which is Goofy. So that's great. We have a good set pressure here. Obviously, we're weak to a couple things, but in the end, this is a pretty okay board state for him to be in. He really needs mirror off the top, right? Like he has mirror in her, I assume.
Yeah, two magic mirrors.
Yeah, so he would love to find a magic mirror, especially after his opponent just casted Beast without the mirror. This is definitely something we're going to look to try and get on. Now, Beast would be really good here because if Colby doesn't have an answer to Beast and he does decide to swing with his Wardrobe, which I don't think he will, but if he does, the Beast gets to eat the Wardrobe and then Rapunzel comes in, we just draw 3 cards and we get really far ahead. I don't think that we're going to see, we didn't see that play. So Colby has the play well scouted for sure.
Yeah, I mean, very important, as you just noted, when you're going against Amber Steel, they've got the Rapunzels, and swinging at a character without actually banishing them can lead to so much trouble and just a loss of tempo for yourself and more control into the hand of Tony. So Colby keeping composed, making sure to not get too eager to overstep in this matchup.
Yeah. He just knows that, in all honesty, the wardrobe is worth more later than it was giving it up there for a single lure.
Yeah, try to build things out a bit, and something like wardrobe can out-survive things like grab your sword and kind of those more lighter touches. So try and build up until you can actually take out the beast in full.
That's really good. That's a really strong couple turns now. Being so far ahead in card advantage, really you're going to catch up in lore very, very quickly here. And then I didn't see what Colby was left in his hand, but he didn't ink last turn, so I imagine it's just one of the higher cost uninkables in the deck. So he just inks Pongo here, which is it's tough because he's trying to get to an end game here where his threats are live. I believe we're at 8 inkwell, maybe 9 inkwell, but the Pongo right now is still pretty good because Amber Steel they don't really have good answers to evasives. So, it gives them more susceptible to, like, a double grab your swords or, like, grab your swords plus Tink or something like that. But we do have a big Elsa here, and that's a pretty good play.
Yeah. Pretty good to be able to throw, one of the most popular, most sought-after cards in all of Lorcana right now. And it feels all the better when your opponent only has 2 characters on, because you're just completely freezing them in totality and getting more value out of these evasive units that, even when having damage, can still have an impact on your control over this game. Pretty even in lore, 6-5, but with the different play styles, different story behind where they are in lore.
Yeah, and the grab your swords there gets rid of the Goofy pretty freely, which is nice, because that 3 damage didn't have to be there. Colby decided to make that choice. And then Hans is another good one. Hans is really good at just picking off now. So the Magic Mirror here, stellar. That's exactly what we needed to get back in the game. But this Hans makes the wardrobe worse, because the wardrobe just can't sit there and not do anything now, because eventually Hans will just pick it off. I imagine the Hans, if it does quest, the wardrobe will just pick off the Hans unless a bodyguard comes down. This is a really interesting take here, though. Like, sacrificing the Elsa there is a really tough decision, because you're really just all in on this mirror winning you the game, and any burn spell now will put Colby in a very bad position.
And at 8 in the inkwell for Colby, it's still at that using half of your resources to be able to draw and then seeing what you can.
His opponent can't do that. His opponent just tried to challenge the untapped wardrobe. We can't do that. Not in this game.
I thought you meant you can't draw with Magic Mirror. I was like, what do you mean?
No. His opponent was just like, yep, this carefree server is going to take out that wardrobe. Like, no, that's not going to happen.
I don't know about when you first started. The very, very, very first day I started playing Lorcana, I kept getting eager and wanting to take out units, or not paying attention to inkable versus non-inkable and thinking, I want to get rid of this and be able to throw in the inkwell. Oh, no.
So I really want to note the last play that came out. Hans quested and did a damage to itself, so Rapunzel could come in and heal the Hans to draw a card. That's very efficient use of Hans there.
Oh, yes. I'm so glad you pointed that out, because I have been wondering when somebody would use the full capability of Hans's ability, because it is specifically designated. It's not that you have to use it on an enemy character. You can use it on any character.
And he still gets the banish on the wardrobe trait anyway. So being able to replace your Rapunzel, that's better than not being able to replace your Rapunzel.
Yep, so
we're really pressuring now with the lore. We're going up to 13. We only have, a little baby Maleficent. Now there's a Maui and Aladdin in hand, but they're not as good without, well, Maui's fine. Maui's great. But the Aladdin can't do as much without a Pocket Watch, and we're still 2 ink away from the play for Pocket Watch plus Aladdin, so there's a lot of resources that Colby's down right now. That You Were Forgotten Me really did punish him early. That was a good draw. Anytime you can draw friends off the top and you have a Maleficent in play, you feel pretty good about it.
The combo that feels like they were meant for one another.
And hey, he got to the be prepared, so that's great. That's where you want to be. Gets rid of his Maleficent. Board's kind of set now, and you're down on lore by 7. Not the end of the world. He definitely has to find an ink this turn. Unfortunately, inking Aladdin there is really tough, but I just think that maybe... Oh, he has a second one, so it's fine.
Oh, what's he got in his
He had Aladdin, Maui. All right, so we get an Ariel on this side, which finds nothing, sadly, of course. We're not singing with Ariel.
Not quite. And, I mean, for Colby when talking about inking that Aladdin. It feels like when you're running the Pocket Watch, in this case running one in the deck, that if you don't have that combo with Aladdin, then Aladdin just becomes an inkable option when you're trying to get... I've seen that more frequently recently as that duality that he offers if you're not trying to index into that particular combo strategy.
It's really just trying to get the most out of your mirror.
Yeah.
So you have to keep inking because you need to be able to like just say, I want to like this turn's great. Like I mean, he actually decides to play. He doesn't have anything exhausted for exerted here. So the Goofy is great. Like that's just a great turn. He's just like, yep, I can ink again. I can draw a card with mirror, and I can just play my Goofy. So now I'm back on board with threatening. This Goofy can pick off the aerial when in doubt. That's a very punishing play again. So we go down 2 cards, and now we just have to make really tough decisions. We get rid of Elsa and the Aladdin, I believe. Or is that a Maui? I don't know. We'll see. I think he might have left Maui in his hand. We get to go to 15, and then he does not decide to quest with the aerial, which is completely fine because that card can hang out. But let's see. So he kept the Maui. So the Maui just gets rid of the Rapunzel. But we're already on 15 lore. The Goofy now is just gaining 2 lore, which is fine.
Yeah, I think these Goofies have been putting in decent work for Colby in this very character-oriented deck, and whenever you can run a Maui into a Rapunzel, you feel pretty good, because not only are you clearing off a 5 willpower body, but only taking that 1 damage in response. And with Maui, as long as you get 2 characters removed from him, that feels really good. So if you have 4 more willpower to work with in what he can do, then that can feel pretty swell. But Tony, of course, keeping the aerial around for plays like Grab Your Sword to have a heavy impact.
Yeah, that's an interesting turn there. He just pays 5 for Grab Your Swords and then no follow-up. So I guess he didn't want the Maui trade there, which I guess is okay. But a very interesting turn. Obviously, this is like the downfall of like losing out on the lore for 2 turns. I think that last turn, I think I would have been okay sending my air. Either A, questing. I would have been most in favor of questing. But if not, then taking out the Maui seemed like another viable option. Losing to Maleficent is probably the worst spot. Yeah,
because again, Maui, we were just saying, 2 feels good for Maui, but that's also the most common. So at one point, you just kind of have to give that over and say, okay, he's probably going to get 2 characters taken out anyway. I might as well give away this Ariel that isn't going to necessarily do much against when the Maleficents and Eunice come down. But nonetheless, Colby is looking much more threatening, getting the second magic mirror down, and that Inkwell still not necessarily flush in the way to be getting the double draw in an effective way, but you can build towards it. And sometimes using that just extra 2 that you have left over, it's not inkable anyways. What are you going to do with it? You might as well play it.
Yeah, and Tony drew himself into a couple blanks and realized he couldn't win that game, and he got out of it. So that's another great concession there for a player, just realizing like, yep, I can't get out of this particular game. I didn't see what I needed when I needed it. And let's go to game 2.
Despite making it to 15 lore, that is that lock point when going against Ruby Amethyst. As soon as you slow down in the mid-teens, it feels like it's over. Tony recognizes that, wants to save time, goes right into the next one.
I do wonder if Colby hadn't played the Aladdin, if Tony would have tried to stay in. Because he did ink an Aladdin early, and then we discarded an Aladdin with You Had Forgotten Me. So we knew he was down on Aladdins. So if I were playing, I wouldn't have bet on him just having it. So the moment that Colby just represents Aladdin, now you're just like, I just don't think I can get out of this one now.
Also,
but that's also the toughness of this particular matchup, is that sometimes when your mid-range games just doesn't pay off, well then they're just a better deck than you. Like you can't win in your mid-range control if your mid-range just didn't pan out, and that's exactly what happened in that game. Colby's just kind of met him at every even going through 2 You Have Forgotten Me's. He was still able to just draw out of it with Mira and then just meet him at every step and still pressure very, very well.
Yeah, and again, I did like the way that Colby just built around the characters and making sure that the bodies on the board were such an important part of the way he played.
Yeah, the wardrobe, holding back the wardrobe for as long as he did was very important. If he had just, willy-nilly took the 1 lore, it would absolutely paid for it. So it was definitely a good thing. Like, nope, this will just hang out. I'm okay with that.
Colby also, I think, the first one that I've seen on stream to shuffle the way that Colby did. And I just want to give props for just being someone come to do something a little differently. I feel like when you're this many rounds deep into it, you got to give a little props for little sprinkles of things. Like, oh, changing up our visual.
Colby's a gamer. He's like just a straight gamer. He plays everything I can imagine, and he's very good at a lot of different games.
Yeah, just one of those.
He's well-traveled gamer for sure.
Is he one of the ones that kind of can just pick up any game and then immediately feels like just gets the whole context of it?
It definitely feels that way. I sat next to him at Gen Con in the Sunday event, and we were building our steel decks together, and he was just telling me about the insane amount of games he had played on that weekend. I'm just like, dude, I don't know how you do it.
Hey.
I'm more of a focus. Like, I want to be good at this game, focus on this game, and that's all that's important. Colby's like, no, I can be good at this game and 3 other games, and it'll be fun.
Very impressive, Colby. Very impressive.
Getting into game 2 early here. I believe Colby was on the draw or was on the play in game 1, so we do get to see a little bit of a different shot here. We didn't take a look at Tony's deck.
Yeah, I tried to look at it. I didn't see a Tony come up when I was
It's probably Anthony,
searching.
right?
Ah, yes, that was.
It's actually Antonio.
Oh, Antonio.
Yeah.
Ah, yes. Thank you, chat. Appreciate y'all. Let's get this open. Take a look at what Antonio's got working in this.
Oh, so we
steel.
actually, I think, did we see Antonio's earlier? Because with the one-off Crunk?
I think we did. It was like I saw the name Antonio earlier, so I didn't realize Antonio and Tony were the same person.
I didn't pick up on it just yet, but so we got the one-off Crunk in this deck. I love it.
Yeah. So the single Crunk, but
so this is, I think he quest with he did quest with the Eric. Okay.
Since no threat on the other side.
I said this earlier, I'm going to feel like a broken record here, but I'm not a fan of questing on turn 3 when I'm playing against Ruby Amethyst. I'm not really a fan of questing on turn 3 when I'm playing against Amethyst, just because I don't want to freely give my opponent Rafiki.
So Rafiki, yeah.
Luckily, we don't have Rafiki here. We just have Wardrobe, so we're not punished for it, which is nice.
Do you think, because you were talking about how you like Wardrobe being in this deck, the 3/4 body 3, do you see any scenarios, though, where not having the Rafiki and not having that early rush can really be detrimental? Or is it kind of, just different strats on the same side? Wardrobe also being inkable has something to offer.
So we have Archimedes in this. We have Gaston. We have Wardrobe. We're way more on the inkable train here. What do we have? In uninkable-wise, it's very low. It's 2 Mirror, 4 Be Prepared, and then Dragon's Fires, and then Elsa's and Ursula's. So he's not playing any of the rush Amethyst cards. He's definitely just more on inkable stats, and I can respect that, in all honesty.
17 uninkable cards, which is lower on the, that kind of 17 to 20 range, I feel like, for Ruby Amethyst. I think when you have 20 uninkables on turn 7, having a body, you still have like a 92% chance of playing what you need to play. So as long as you don't crest over 20 uninkables.
Players very often remember the bad hands as opposed to the good hands.
Yeah,
so they don't want to remember that every 95% of the games they play, they ink every turn and they do whatever they're supposed to. They only want to remember when they're on turn 5 and they have all their uninkables. So yeah, the statistics work perfectly, and you said it brilliantly for what it's worth. But it's definitely one of those decks that the amount of draw power this deck has, and the sifting it has, you can very easily play 20, 21, 22 uninkables if you wanted to.
Yeah. Well, which is why I think it is cool to see just a slightly different edge in the other direction from Colby, since that is kind of the range you want to. What happens when you index a bit more into having wardrobes and less of the items we see here as well, because it is only the 2 magic mirrors and the single pocket watch.
Right. So we did get our vanilla Elsa in play.
There we go.
Very committed to the You Forgot Me, and I think this is really interesting to note, this particular play pattern. You gotta play, if you're gonna play the card, you gotta play the card. And even though Colby had 5 cards in hand, we have seen players a lot today not play You Have Forgotten Me in those situations where Tony was just like, nope, I'm gonna play the card because that's what my deck's supposed to do. So I can really respect that script that he's sticking to, and he's absolutely making it more difficult for Colby now to ink the next couple turns, and made real tough decisions on what he wanted to keep.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Kind of getting on the ropes a little bit here. I also want to say thanks to the chat. I see some just interesting conversation around the deck that Colby has brought, whether using Wardrobe, what are you bringing out, this Elsa. So I think that when it comes to these tournaments and you're seeing those variants, is some of the most fun discussion to come out of it from a community perspective.
I think it's really just understanding that everything you see reported is not always defined. We're still this is the largest event to date in Disney Lorcana. And it's not shocking to me at all that we're seeing a new deck breakout or like really have a bigger breakout. It's not shocking for me to see a development in a deck like this that was, considered set in stone, little to develop and things like that. This is an evolution. This is an addition to those concepts. And I see the comment about the Wardrobe, and in all honesty, a 3/4 inkable it's a fine card. This deck doesn't win on turn 1. It doesn't win on turn 2. It doesn't win on turn 3. It wins on turn 12 and 13 and 14. So valuing inkables and stats it's an okay choice for this deck.
And the choices that Colby has made with the Elsa that was brought in as well meant that he was able to shift into the early 8-cost Elsa, which was answered by Tony, though, here.
Yeah,
and
he had the smash.
the smash that comes on through from Steel, very common to be able to finish off, especially if when you're shifting, you're playing aggressively as well, so you're opening yourself up to that vulnerability.
Anytime we can draw 2 cards with Carefree in this matchup, we're pretty happy about it. And even now, just turning our card sideways, gaining some lore, forcing Colby to act here. He doesn't have a favorable trade realistically. Like, we can run Wardrobe and Ursula into Tink and make those trades, but we're just sacrificing a lot to do that. And if we make that play, we have to still find answers to Rapunzel and Carefree Surfer.
Yeah. Answer every time you pose a question, or in this case, just some kind of character onto the board, then it does require an answer.
Right.
We don't want any stress and wire.
We've seen a lot today where players held back threats, and this is the opposite. It's like, nope, go ahead, man. You got to answer it. I mean, Carefree Surfer is the best play ever into before a preemptive be prepared, because now you're I play Carefree Surfer and I drew 2 cards, and now you have to find an answer. And seeing as he's making trades now, he doesn't have to be prepared.
Yeah.
And he's, okay, so that's a much better decision. I was no. We don't want to Dragon's Fire Rapunzel when we can Dragon's Fire Stitch.
Yeah.
But we get the Magic Mirror on board here, and that's nice. And the lore counts aren't crazy out of hand yet, so Mirror is still we can still kind of take a turn or 2 to draw with Mirror and catch up. We definitely don't want to see Beast right now. If Beast comes out, we're probably not.
Yeah, paying to get a Magic
feeling
Mirror
pretty bad
down,
about that
and then you
Beast
don't
right
even
now.
get to use it. You just paid to.
I spoke it into existence
for nothing.
there.
Yeah.
That's not, I mean, and this Ursula, ironically, can't even, we're talking about giant Ursula, gigantic body, but it can't get rid of this Rapunzel. And the lore stealing is nice, drawing cards is nice, but it's really bad in this particular board presence here. So he's definitely going to be looking for some other answers to try and catch up on the board.
And I always like to think, the trading and consideration for the value of a card. When you have this big Ursula that is still sticking, and there was a Carefree Surfer Stitch on the other side that you managed to get off, that was 8 willpower as well.
Another You Have Forgotten Me.
Yeah.
Strips the rest of his hand. He's back on draw. Draw City.
And no Magic
powerful.
Mirror to
And
be
no
able
mirror.
to draw.
Do we get to sing this time? No. Ariel has not had a good stat today.
She didn't do her warm-ups.
There's been a lot of fail-to-finds today.
A little pitchy today.
Yeah, a lot of fail-to-finds.
Yeah, but I wonder what it's been abroad across, because obviously stream is only a sliver of it. I wonder if she's been denying the...
That's an interesting line. He decides to take out the Ursula there. And I get it. You get some damage on, and you kind of threaten this idea of hey, if you don't use your Ursula to get rid of my Beast, I'll probably draw cards with Rapunzel. But I also think that if that's my line, I would much rather just know that I can run my Beast in next turn, or force him to run both Ursulas into the Beast, just so you could get 2 lore.
Lore being the name of the game after all, but as I feel like it wasn't that long ago you're saying Lore wasn't in a bad position. It's still not. We haven't seen any aggression in that because of just the heavy presence when it comes to characters. I think part of that being with Colby
Grab Your
going
Swords
into
with
it.
the singing there. She can't find the songs, but she sure can sing
Yeah,
them well.
she can. So I guess that's it. It's not that she didn't warm up. She's singing fine.
She's singing fine.
She's just having a hard time.
She can't find the playbook, right?
Yeah, yeah.
She can't find the songbook.
She can't quite find the music.
So this is an interesting. We get Pongo here, which is... Yeah, it's rough. Honestly, this is a rough spot for Colby. I think Colby's pretty behind in this game. It's like he has Pocket Watch in his hand, and like every fiber of my body is like, man, you need to get the Pocket Watch in play over the Pongo, just because Pocket Watch opens up turns later for like Aladdin and things like that. And we just sung Grab Your Swords again, and then we oh wow, that's a punishing turn here. I actually wouldn't be too shocked, depending on what this draw is, to see Colby scoop it up. And yep, there we are.
Yep. So nope, not going down that road.
Yeah.
Especially with it, this makes it 1-1 within this best of three.
And he has, like 23 minutes is
exactly.
Colby's he's a good pace player. He's a good fast player. He understands how to utilize that clock well. But sometimes this deck might not be capable of winning in 23 minutes, depending on how these games really start to play out. So taking as much time as he possibly can to win the game, or put himself in a position to win Game 3 is very, very important.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you don't want to end up starting the third game of that matchup feeling flustered because you know that you might be forcing into a draw territory just because of the nature of your deck.
The likeliness of him coming back in that game is very low. So, knowing that his likeliness is very low, you have to leverage time. And again, Colby's he's a gamer. He's been playing games for a long, long time. And he's very skilled, and he just knew the likeliness of me turning this around to win is just low. And if I do, even in a world where I do, that's great that I win the match. But if I don't, I'm giving myself less time in Game 3, knowing that my deck doesn't necessarily win in 15 minutes.
And the more that you can be secure in how you're doing within Swiss, the better, because we're at that point, being that we're in the 6th round, that part of your fate is decided by the performance of other people. Right. If you're getting a lot that are going undefeated, then even one single loss can put you in danger territory before going into round 7 and 8.
I believe our graphic says that Colby's 5-0. I'm pretty confident that he's 4-0-1. So putting himself in a position to win a Game 3 is way better than drawing. So that's another thing. He doesn't want to be in a position where he goes 4-0-2, because then it's forcing him he has to win out, because 5-0-2 is not good enough to make top 16.
I do wonder, because I want to at some point take a look at where everyone stands, because when talking to some folks during lunch, it seems like there are a lot of draws, and because of the mirror matches of Ruby Amethyst.
Unfortunately, it's like the one thing we don't have access to see the actual standings as they're going on.
But you can just see the score under the matches.
I did my due diligence. I tried to talk as many people as I can, right?
Any inside scoops from when chatting?
There's a couple decks succeeding, like the Emerald Steel deck being 5-0 is pretty cool. I don't know how Emerald's doing in general. I didn't go through and look at the list too much, but I can tell you that there's a lot of Emeralds at the bottom table, which isn't a good sign. The fact that we have the Emerald Steel, which was undefeated, but Emerald Amethyst was the most played deck, and we haven't seen that on stream or really hanging around the top tables either, isn't a great sign for that, for our Emerald Amethyst fans.
Yeah, I thought we were going to see some more Emerald Amethyst too.
Yeah, just didn't see it.
Yeah, some kind of rush for him to just undercut all of the slower pacing that everything else has been bringing.
Right, and then like we said this at the beginning, by design, by default, Amber Steel and Ruby Amethyst are going to be in the positions they are just by numbers. When you're talking that you're 65% of the metagame, well, that means there's just that many players that by default you end up with that many players playing the deck, so it's not too shocking. There is an Amber Ruby. Shout out to Scott, fellow teammate of mine, TFM representing. He is 4-0-1 currently in this round, so he's still live for top 8. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out.
We'll see. I'm sure we'll have some stats to look over when we know what the top 16 are as well, in terms of what that conversion ends up being.
After this round, we'll definitely know some players that are locked for top 16, so we can definitely discuss the decks that are already in. Specifically because in a 6-round tournament, we'll know anyone that's 6 wins, anyone that's 5-0-1. It's very likely that they end up in top 16. So we'll see. Early aggressive start here, knowing we're in time. Know we have 19 minutes. We're just getting on the board early. And obviously this play is, it's not great, but it is what it is. Cutting away resources again. Like I said, he is very committed to the You Have Forgotten Me on 4. And for what it's worth, I think if you're playing that card in your deck, you need to be willing to play it. And we have seen a lot of restraint on the day of like players just like not playing that card, and I think this is a better choice.
I agree.
It really worked out in game 2.
Yeah, and especially, there are kind of two portions for it, right? When you play on curve on 4, as long as you don't feel like it's too much of a detriment to you being able to build your own board, then you're denying. Or later on, you can eliminate the entirety of their hand when going against a Ruby Amethyst when they're lacking draw.
Back to back, You Have Forgotten Me here. Gets them down to 1 card, which it looks like it's going to be a Maui, and I'm kind of. This is so tough. What do we have? We have Dragonfire and Dragonfire and Be Prepared. And my honest reason for him choosing both of those cards is that they're uninkable. So he still has a Maui in hand, which is great. But
that's so tough.
It's not an ideal position whatsoever. We're definitely we're on the please find Magic Mirror train, and please hope that my opponent doesn't have Beast after I find Magic Mirror train.
Not like last time.
Yeah,
that's
like
exactly
last time
what
it was
happened.
immediately answered, but you feel pretty good about that. You're like, all right, cool, he wrote a Beast. That's great. Like now, and then he played a Beast. So you just got rid of 2 Beasts. So right now we want Magic Mirror off the top.
Yeah, though with only 2 Magic Mirrors. Of course, most when they're running items like these, they're not running a lot of copies.
You gotta play to win, and the way to play to win is saying, I'm gonna draw my Magic Mirror.
Yeah, give it just a little extra of tap right on the top.
Sometimes
saying, hey,
you gotta believe in the heart of the cards, right?
You must believe. That's how people actually win.
Yeah.
Just pure belief.
For what it's worth, sometimes it absolutely is better to be lucky than good.
That's true. I mean, the very nature of card games, right? The idea is you're trying to construct as specifically as possible to create the best scenarios, but sometimes it just ain't it, which is why it's always best of territory.
Sometimes you're absolutely just playing to your outs.
Yep.
And right now, unfortunately, your out is drawing a Magic Mirror to get yourself back in the game. Because when your opponent just went, grab your swords, get rid of your board, and I have 3 guys in play that this Pongo can't interact with, you feel really good. Right now, Tony is in phenomenal position to win this game, and Colby he's on a little bit of a struggle street. I don't know the card in his hand. I don't even think he's really looked at it. He definitely hasn't shown it or gone too far. What was that? So that was just the Tink for cleanup. Right now, we are definitely on Be Prepared mode or bust.
And it's so...
And we found it.
Okay, well, there's the Be Prepared. I was going to say it's something that you have to think of when you had to get rid of a Be Prepared earlier, so you're already limited, but luckily had that to play. And, I mean, on that note of the...
We're going to get some Kronk action.
Oh, yeah.
There it is.
Yeah, the Kronk coming down.
Doing the Kronk.
Yeah. Just for you.
It's great. I mean, the sad part is that this Kronk might only get 2 lore and then get Maui'd, but, it's okay. Jetsam, not necessarily a great card right now, but I'm sure it's the card he has to play.
I know
what is going on here? Oh, we're just fixing lore counts that did I think a card might have threw a lore around. Colby was on 8 lore?
8 lore.
I don't know how Colby would have got to 8 lore.
I had built that up. Something with the Pongos. Yeah, I'm trying to recall what moments.
Pongo did get in there a couple times.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay. He was just quietly doing his job.
Yeah. They taught the dog quiet. Speak and quiet.
So we're at 8 lore each, and we might be. We just smash the Jetsam. That's okay. I might have hung around because I really like Han with Smash. Might have gave you a little more room. Your opponent's playing Elsas and Wardrobes, so the Han out of combat would have actually been able to get rid of it. I'm really curious to see what the last card in his hand is. My assumption is it's like Maleficent.
Yeah.
That's my guess, if I had to guess. But we just gain another 4 lore here. We go to 11. We do a random damage to Ursula, which I think is fine. This Ursula can't trade into either of these cards again. Be Our Guest is phenomenal here. I think we just find Ariel, and then we get to play Ariel and search for a song, which is cool.
Yeah. As you said, Ursula just doesn't mind eating up that chip damage, can stand to do so for quite some time.
Did we finally... Oh, we found a Be Our Guest. We got somewhere this time, at least.
Yeah.
And we're probably just casting Be Our Guest this turn, to be honest.
Yeah, that sequence always feels pretty good. Go Ariel, get into Be Our Guest, then it goes into another draw to be able to draw a character, and then...
And we found a Hades, too. So
Hades is going to be able to pull
now,
something for discard.
What do we have? We're at 8 in the Inkwell. So we're not in Hades plus Carefree Surfer territory. but we're still in a territory where like Colby, it almost feels again like it's be our guest or just be behind. Elsa would go a long way, so Elsa could definitely help. Looks like we are Ursuling for 3. And then
that seems
Aladdin.
to be the hope right
the
now.
Aladdin's a bit scary here. You kind of have to do it. This is another reason why I would have loved to keep the Smash in my hand, just to have more outs to this. But the other thing now is I think playing the Aladdin almost. That's interesting. So. I think he just so he's going to quest and get rid of it. Yeah, I was like, I think he just knew it was going to go bye.
And that's where that chip damage does add up. Hans being able to get 4 lore points now added through questing at this point, in addition to the 2 chip onto Ursula, so that Kronk could get that slam in.
That created a 1-for-1 trade for Ursula.
Yeah, that's definitely some value to be had here as we're.
I guess this is going to pick up a Surfer. Yeah, but this is like the position now where we do gain a little bit of lore. There's a lot of more moving around, so we're at 13. Yeah, right. We went to 13 this turn through.
Yeah, I saw
Hans.
Albert coming through and adjusting. So
yeah.
I was going to say, the lore system's like, let me wait and see what correction happens here. So a slight lore advantage for Tony.
This is an interesting trade here. Since we take out the Hans, we get rid of the chip damage, but we do force another overall trade. But I think we're also. I think in the Steel player's face, like I'm okay sending my Eric in here and just like getting rid of it, and I still have a 6/6. Like I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I think you can feel pretty when it comes to.
I mean, this
that
is fine.
choice.
Also, especially if we have another Hades, we can just go and find our other Hades.
Yeah, when you're kind of looking.
This is like the weird game here, right? So we went down to 11, we go back up to 15, we get a Hades to find our other Hades. And the only thing I don't like there is I would have just inked and probably just played the other Hades. Because right now, the Aladdin is very free on Prince Eric. And since that, like now we don't have a very good trade. And that's the only reason why I think I just would have shot out another Hades there, just to have more. Because you have to be winning the lore gains. And right now it's more or less just like trading. Like he hasn't really moved very far in the game because of the Aladdin like lore trades, and Colby is like again just quietly found his way up lore, and I don't know, you got to be weary of those things as well.
Oh, it's true, because Colby looked to be in a tough spot for a bit without having a magic mirror, no direct draw to really enable him to answer what Tony was developing, who was chaining things like the aerial into the Be Our Guest and replenishing the utility he had available. But because of Aladdin not only evening the tides within terms of lore, but being able to get this clear, being a big body himself, Colby doesn't have to worry as much about the lack of cards in hand. You're still always a bit wary, but it does buy you some time. Was even able to get the Elsa down for another 4/6 body, and suddenly Tony with this Amber Steel, still having some of the heavier units like that Kronk in it, but I'm sure is also just drawing into these lower, cheaper characters that can't get answered by the bigger bodies.
It's really just not. It's mostly bad character use. Offering up Prince Eric there is just not where you need to be, because you know that 4 is not a good number for you. So giving him the ability to get rid of a Prince Eric for 1 and still have 4 health it's a problematic number. So this really has to go and find a grab your swords, and it didn't. So because it didn't, he's actually in a really awful position now. Because Aladdin's just going to pick off another aerial, gain another 2 lore, and actually that's actually game. The Aladdin being able to pick off a character here puts him to 17, and the Elsa is just it's just good enough. It just gets him there. So he didn't even have to attack a character there for what it's worth. He could have just lured his way to victory.
There you have it.